Here's the scenario. A man and a woman are running away from a nightmarish monster. The man enters an elevator in hopes of an escape, but he's unable to save the woman he loves. The door closes and she is left behind, seemingly killed by the monster. The man, dejected and disturbed, sits down on the dirty, rusted elevator floor as it goes down. Now, create a song that encapsulates everything that just happened. That is the transition from chaos to calm, but also the tragedy of losing someone. At the same time, make sure that the song blends with the general visual aesthetic of the game. Anything too different will break immersion. This is what Akira Yamaoka, the composer of Silent Hill 2, created as a response. Great video game soundtracks are those which are not only great to listen to on their own, but their enjoyment is enhanced when you know the context in which they are presented. Silent Hill 2 starts with the track White Noise. Without context, it seems like just another ambient track. But played together with the intro, it creates this tense, strange atmosphere, something that sets the tone for the rest of the game. Then there's this track called Forest. It is played the first time you meet someone in the game. The track to me represents the feeling of being
lost,
and not just in the physical way. Silent Hill handles a lot of sensitive themes and the soundtrack is carefully crafted to represent them properly. The track True plays after the central character James learns the truth about what happened to his wife, and it does sound like a revelation covered in shock and sadness. One of my personal favorites is the track Day of the Night. It is a short track that plays when James meets Laura, a child at the hospital. She is a symbol of innocence in the game and the only one who doesn't see any monsters throughout the town. Listen to the track and notice just how peaceful it is in order to highlight that innocence. All in all, Akira Yamaoka crafted such a perfect soundtrack that complements both the story and the visuals, forging a deeper connection between the game and those who have experienced it. Anyway,
what do you mean anyway?
Let's move on to the next one. Imagine creating a soundtrack so good for one game that future composers have remixed it for every game in the franchise moving forward. I'm obviously talking about Ezio's Family, composed by Jesper Kyd for Assassin's Creed 2. Everyone knows how iconic that track is. While it was contextually created for one specific game, it has since then become the theme that represents the Assassin's Creed franchise. AC2, for a lot of people, myself included, was the best entry in the series, and that's because this is where all the systems perfectly aligned. The setting, the story, the characters, and the soundtrack, which not only fits with the virtual world of the game, it also blends perfectly with the real-life place it was inspired from. Venice. Seriously, if I put the soundtrack over some stock video footage of Venice, it will fit like a glove. And you know what? I'm about to do just that. Really, what more do you want me to say? The soundtrack is beautiful and nostalgic, easily the most memorable one from the entire series. For me, it also represents that classic bygone era of Assassin's Creed when it was trying to establish itself in the industry, and it was just fun, you know. Good times. Since then, the change has spread like an infection. Speaking of infection, let's move on to the next one, Hollow Knight. You know, in music there is a technique called leitmotif, and it is a certain melody repeated multiple times to convey a concept or a recurring theme. The soundtrack of Hollow Knight, curated by the talented Christopher Larkin, uses this technique a lot to communicate the story and the fictional world of Hallownest through sound. Just listen to these two tracks. The first one plays where you are in a location called Dirtmouth, and the second one plays where you are in a different distant location called Green Path, and see how they feel connected through sound. You get what I'm saying? Are you now speaking my musical language? Notice how the sound literally blends with the structure of the game, which is a Metroidvania. This concept happens throughout the game, and it is especially reserved for one of the final bosses in what is a very emotional moment. I feel like in a two-dimensional environment, the soundtrack is even more important because you have to use it to make the fictional world feel believable, and this technique really helps with that. Here is one more example of it, but in a slightly different way. The first track plays at a place called City of Tears, and the other plays at Soul's Sanctum. The melody is the same, the instruments are different. Give it a listen. As you might have come to expect, great sound design should perfectly blend with the visuals and the storytelling of a game, and it does so exactly here. Crystal Peak is a location in the game where mining takes place, and take a listen to that track and see how appropriately it fits that context. There are just so many gems from the Hollow Knight soundtrack album, and it is difficult to explain everything in detail without spoiling the experience that accompanies it. Here is another one of my favorites, Reflection. Especially after overcoming an impossible challenge, sitting on these benches and listening to this track was meditative. It really makes you reflect on the journey you just had. Very, very appropriate title. Anyway.
Anyway? What do you mean, anyway?
There are so many games with great soundtrack, it is impossible for me to cover them all in just this one essay. Stay tuned for more, but before I end this one, I want to say I am also into music production. You can search my name, Rahil Blade, on any streaming service you use or like. I'm not very good at this self-promotion thing, but I'm kind of a big deal currently, having 1 monthly listener on Spotify, so yeah. Wait. Even that one listener actually might just be me.